So 15 ways to create a psychologically safe workplace. The first question that I want to just have you put in your mind is, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to create a psychologically safe workspace, other than it's the right thing to do? But in business, sometimes those things they don't align quite the way we want them to. So just keep that question in your mind, and let's keep going. The first thing I want to talk about is our new tagline, which we think is an incredibly bold statement, and one that we work hard to live up to every single day. Make the invisible actionable. And there's three pieces in here. The first is, what is the invisible piece? And how do we, first of all, make the invisible visible? And because this is a session about psychological safety, well, I won't keep you in suspense any longer. The invisible piece is psychological safety. So the first thing that we're saying is that we want to be able to make the invisible visible. The second thing is, how do we figure out the actionability of it? How do we take psychological safety and make whatever we see there actionable? And the third point is, again, back to that question of like, why psychological safety? Why do we want to make it actionable? And the reason we want to make it actionable is because, particularly in business, actions need to have a point. They need to ultimately lead to return on investment, or ROI. And that's what we're going to be doing today. Is we're going to be looking at challenges, and we're going to be looking at psychological safety, and we're going to be connecting them in this way right here. We've got psychological safety over on that side. We have a measurable outcome on this side, whatever the outcome is going to be. And again, oftentimes in business, it's going to relate to some kind of financial thing. And so it could be a KPI or an OKR or an increased sale or something like that. And what we've typically done in the past, and historically, what we've done is we've started with workforce behavior. And because we haven't been able to see the psychological safety aspect, we kind of known that there's something inside people we need to pay attention to, but it's been tough to see. So we've been focusing on workforce behavior. So if you need better sales, then you teach sales techniques and product knowledge. If you need fewer safety incidents, then you teach safe handling and how to wear protective gear. And these are all necessary, but they're missing an important piece. They don't quite get there. So the piece that we're missing is, when it comes to people, is, do I care about better sales? Do I care about safety? Do I care about customer satisfaction? If I do, you're going to get the best of me. If I don't care about those things, you're not going to. You may be able to get me to care a little bit more by paying me and promotions and that type of thing. But those things have their limits. They get me to show up. They get me to go through the motions. But if you really, really want me to care about these things, then you as a manager and as an organization need to help me feel safe. You need to help me feel trusted. You need to help me feel respected. And you need to help me feel supported. And it turns out that this sense of caring starts with psychological safety. So our job as managers is not only to understand the measurable outcomes, the challenges, the things that we're trying to do. Our job as managers is to make sure that we can thread that all the way back down to where people are actually living, which is inside them, this sense of psychological safety. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run through a couple of slides. Some of you on the call, I know, are familiar with psychological safety, so bear with me for a few minutes. And if you're not, then this will be a good introduction as to what this thing is. So psychological safety, simply put, is simply how safe you feel speaking up in a particular group. So when you're sitting at the office or on the shop floor, you're in a group of people, how safe do you feel just to speak up and voice an opinion or have a comment, make a joke, whatever. If you think, never mind if you are, but if you think you might feel embarrassed or humiliated, you're actually not going to say anything. You're going to sit back, you're going to sit on your hands, you're going to stare at the clock, and you're going to let this meeting go by. However, if you feel that you're going to be accepted and heard, then you're going to lean forward, you're going to make eye contact with the people around you, and you're going to contribute whatever you've got to contribute. And this is fundamentally at the heart of everything else that goes on in the workplace. And let me show you a couple of other slides to demonstrate how. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, is a hot topic around the world, as well it should be. And it turns out that the sense of equity that I feel like, diversity is, we need to hire more people to get our numbers more balanced. But when we get people in the organization, how do we keep them there? They're not going to stay if they don't feel a sense of equity or fairness. And they're not going to stay if they don't feel included. And psychological safety is fundamental to those feelings of equity and inclusiveness. Well-being, we hear a lot of talk about well-being, and particularly through COVID, of course. There's mental well-being, there's emotional well-being, there's physical well-being. So it's a pretty broad range of topics. But at the end of the day, if I feel that I might be harmed or injured or embarrassed or humiliated, that actually leads right into my sense of, and undermines my sense of well-being. And so again, psychological safety is a precursor to having the full range of well-being. And then engagement, the research shows that psychological safety statistically predicts engagement. So I know a lot of us are familiar with engagement, and many of you may have experienced an engagement survey or use engagement surveys in your organization. So what we're trying to do is understand that piece. It's a lag indicator. Psychological safety is a leading indicator, which means psychological safety is there before engagement. How am I doing, Lou? We're okay so far?
Time is okay.
Okay. You tell me to pick up the pace?
A little bit, yeah.
All right. I heard that. All right. Google what brought psychological safety to the forefront is Google back in 2014 did a study across 180 of their teams. And at the end of the day, after sifting the numbers for 3 years, they came up with this statement: psychological safety, more than anything else, is critical to making a team work. And by work, they mean driving through to these things right here. Psychological safety, as you saw earlier, actually leads into performance, customer satisfaction, sales metrics, staff turnover, quality, and throughput. And we see this time and time again in the work that we do. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to that, the first slide has psych safety, workforce behavior, and output or productivity. And that's essentially what we're looking at right here. So if you believe, and I believe strongly, if we believe that, psychological safety drives workforce behavior, and we believe that workforce behavior drives output, then that logically creates the argument that psychological safety has a direct link to output. And anecdotally, I think everybody's felt that at one point or another. We talked about, you can get people to show up to work by paying and training, but we were discussing earlier, those are table stakes. That's going to get me to show up, but that's not going to get me to excel. What gets me to excel is working with my team and feeling like I have a place on that team to really be myself and do what I'm showing up to do as well as I can.
Yeah, beautiful. And nicely said, and nice segue into the next slide here, Lou. And that is, what does psychological safety drive? Well, when you're an executive, when you're a manager in an organization, you're thinking about these things all the time. Every organization right now is going through some kind of transformation because of COVID. And when we have people who are less psychologically safe, they are in a fear state or a threat state. Their brain is constantly worrying about what might be coming down the pike. And so it leaves less room and available to actually do the work that's in front of them. They feel resistant. The more psychologically safe we are, the more our brain relaxes and is open to new things, and therefore becomes more resilient. And we see this time and again in teams of people. Transformation comes at them, change comes at them of some kind, and they freeze. And this from your own experience when you're feeling a sense of overwhelm. Innovation writ large. We're here to invent new products. Or innovation writ small. I've got a customer on the phone or on a Zoom call, and they've got a problem, and I'm trying to figure out how to solve that problem with them. When we have low psychological safety, talk about caring, then it's compliance based. I'm just going to go through the steps, go through the motions, and you've experienced this, if you've been on a support call sometimes, with somebody else who's trying to help you, and they just go, try this, I don't know what else to do. That's compliance based. Whereas when we're more psychologically safe, we feel much more creative, much more willing to try things out. What about this? And what about that? And right, that's what psychological safety does, is it drives us up that innovation curve through communication, collaboration, and creativity. And then performance, and you see performance on everything, all the things that I talked about earlier: sales performance, customer satisfaction, turnover, safety stats. If you're measuring something in the organization that is influenceable by people, then psychological safety is a factor.
So quick question from Zach. Is this limited to a team/group or general workplace sentiment, feeling okay in their role/task? I don't think it's limited to, being in a team or a group. I think that, psychological safety, and if we want to even, use the term team dynamics, or, any other term that really relates to how you interact with your team and feel on your team or in your role. I don't think that it's limited to specifically the group that you're with, but the reason for that is because humans do everything in groups. Everything that you do, even if your role is, you have a very specific role as one person, you're still interacting with other people, unless you're on a very rare occasion. And all of those interactions all impact the way that you feel about kind of your place in the universe. That's at least my take. Does that make sense, Zach? And Nebashir just did a speech for the city of Austin and talked about all of this. That's awesome.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Send it to me when it's out.
It's great. I think a lot of people on this call are familiar with and are actually having these kind of conversations with their clients and with their teams in their organization. We've talked a few minutes ago about caring, and so what we've got is we haven't divided this. Psychological safety is not just a monolithic piece, a single thing. It actually, the research shows, can be divided into at least these 5 things, and then we break them down even to further subtopics. And the topics are things, questions that our brain is constantly scanning the social landscape and asking, do I feel sure? In particular, about the work, about the local environment, not necessarily about the tornado outside or the COVID outside, but about what's going on inside the organization. Do I feel I can make choices? Do I have the ability to try a new thing or to be myself? That's really what this is all about. If I, again, higher psych safety, the more I think this is I can feel that I can make choices and feel autonomous. Relatedness, do I feel cared about by others? Do other people have my back? Do I feel things are fair in my workplace? Is work handed out okay, equitably? And then finally, significance. Do I feel that I matter to others? And in particular, do I feel that I matter in the eyes of my immediate supervisor, who has such an important role in my work environment? The article that brought you all here goes through, describes these 5 things. And then for each of them, it presents kind of 3 things that we can do to help to improve them. And again, why do we want to improve these? Because when we improve these, our working hypothesis for the next 39 minutes, is that when we improve psych safety, that then improves workplace behaviors, and workplace behaviors are measured by KPIs, and that those KPIs then will go on to measure our influence on sales and transformation and all the other things that we've talked about. What we're going to do is we're going to do 2 things. We're going to identify some issues or challenges that your organization is thinking about right now. And Luke, can we can see my main screen here? Yeah. Okay. Good. Thanks. And so what I've got here is I've got an example that we ran into a couple of days ago. Lewis and I were on a call talking with the senior management team and talking about psychological safety. And they said, a main struggle that we have, big piece, is that workers on the shop floor don't trust the senior leadership team. It's a business that's been around for decades, and we've got this kind of us them piece, and that's what we're trying to deal with. So what other issues, and whether you want to just turn off your mic and holler out a sentence or two, or when you type it into the chat, I'd love to get another 2 or 3 of these at least. What challenges are you wrestling with? And Lou, if you can just, if it's in the chat, you can just holler them out.
Yep, for sure.
So, for example, Neb talked about DEI, right? DEI is a big one, right? So, people in my organization, we have a DEI initiative, and people in my organization are, let's say, turning over faster. We're able to hire people, but what we're finding is that they're not staying. Let's put that one as a challenge.
Jesse has got another one as well, which is the appropriateness of speaking up / radical candor is different across cultures. How might we address this?
The appropriateness of I'm going to just type this out. Appropriateness of speaking up
/ radical candor.
Okay. Radical candor. Yep, is different
across cultures. Another one from Michael, which is the pain of BIPOC staff who get harmed by DEI initiatives that come and go. And that's a very interesting one that we hear a lot. The pain of BIPOC or pain from DEI initiatives that come and go, yeah. And then Steve says some team members shut down one member who is outspoken about promotion processes.
Okay, so team members shutting down another member.
Yeah, outspoken about promotion processes.
Another outspoken member. It's those darn outspoken members, you know?
Yeah, those squeaky wheels.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Anything macro? Anyone got a transformation project that you're considering or in the middle of? Anyone got sales numbers are off, customer satisfaction, like anything like that that's out there that you're concerned with?
James says toxic team culture. Management don't know how to fix it. That's just a super broad, lack of true leadership. Team members overworked and disengaged. Hard to disconnect due to heightened stress and unclear expectations from management. So lack of trust and transparency. All right. Misalignment across senior leadership, which weakens efforts.
All right, hold on. I can't
Oh,
type.
sorry.
They're coming at me now. And changing focuses. I think that's what the word was. And what was the last one, Lou?
Misalignment across senior leadership, which weakens efforts. So there's a transformation style question. And then I'm just keeping an eye on the time. We're going to need to buzz through.
Yeah,
about 4 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it there.
Okay.
I'm gonna call it there, and we're gonna quickly get into the next piece, and we're gonna go reasonably quickly. So this is the exercise this is the exercise. Whoop, I'm just gonna get rid of these. That we're gonna want you to do in the breakout rooms. So what we've got down here is on the left-hand side, we've got the 15 ways that were in the article. They're just summarized here. And you can see we've got the CARES model here. There's the 3 CARES items, the 3A items, etc. What the spreadsheet has done is just taken all of the issues that I just typed in on the previous page, and it's put them across the top. And so this is the test. if we go down this column, and we'll just go down the first column, and maybe take 5 minutes to do it. Workers on the shop floor don't trust the senior leadership team. We got a trust issue here. Do these 15 things, do some of these 15 things, do any of these 15 items actually contribute to solving this particular problem? So what we're trying to do is, if we work on site safety, does it actually have an impact over here on the outcome, the measurable outcomes? And so the first one, create a predictable rhythm to people's days and weeks by scheduling meetings and touch points on consistent days and times. So we're talking about predictable and consistent, predictable, consistent. How does that help? Does that help workers on the shop floor and their trust with senior leadership? Who says yes or no? I think you can use thumbs up and thumbs down. I can't see them. Lou, maybe you can, or roll it in the chat. Just say Y or N. And Lou, if you can give me a consensus, or someone wants to drop their, open up their mic and just say, yeah, I think it is. What do we got?
Take a look.
Oh, Kyla, did you get into?
How did you do that?
Did someone get into the document and change it? It's awesome. I'm being hacked by Kyla. It's great. So Kyla says yes. Let's move down to the next one. Ensure that tasks are well explained and clearly understood. Does anyone think that doesn't help to increase trust? Lou, what's your point here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say that it absolutely helps create trust. Clarity always creates trust. If you have, people in an office and people who are on the shop floor doing the work, so you've got, the two sides, there's often a disconnect between the two. And if there's open lines of communication, and, leadership understands that they're there to actually facilitate the work instead of, leading from on high, which if the office disappeared, the work would still get done, right? And so if there's clarity on both sides, that creates accountability and that creates trust, because I now know that you agreed to do this, you said you'd do this, and I said I would do this. And so we now know what's expected of the other. So it absolutely, in my opinion, creates psychological safety.
Well, and the psychological safety then leads into this improving the trust. So good for you. So clarity and certainty, that's what the C stands for here. Certainty actually does lead into improving trust. When changes are required, give staff as much advance notice, detail, and rationale as possible. This thing's coming. This is why it's coming, and here's what we're going to do about it. We're going to close down the factory in 3 months. The reason we got to do that is we got to refurbish those machines. And here's what's going to happen in the meantime. Everybody's going to be reassigned to other work. We're going to post those jobs 2 months or 3 months ahead of time so that everyone knows. Does that help to create trust? Of course it does. I don't need to go through all of these in the interest of time. What I'd like to do is this. I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms of 4 people.
Yeah, having the data is really powerful, isn't it? People want to see the stats and the data and the figures. Otherwise, psychological safety is not always the easiest concept to explain. That's my experience. But if they see the stats and the data linking to KPIs, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, listen, thanks for the chat, Helen. And yes, so Zach, I got your note there. I'll get the PDF to you shortly. Lou, I don't know where Lou is anymore. I've got everyone's on my screen here. I got a big monitor at the end of my table, and it's just like full of people. I don't know how you stand on each other's shoulders, but it's really quite acrobatic. All right, what I'd like to do now is just have someone volunteer, stick up their hand. We're running out of time, and so we've only got a few minutes, but someone wants to stick on their hand or just open up your mic and say, hey, I want to talk about one of these things. Who's going to volunteer?
Yeah.
Michael.
Well, I don't, right. Michael Thornhill here, North America, representing Mattingly Solutions. And some things I heard from our small group was the necessity of consistency, trust, as well as, this is not the words that were used, but repair. And in essence, like, what are we doing to not just stop spinning our wheels while other staff are holding the brakes, but learn to sort of like stop and ask, what do I what do I need to see differently, and what are we going to do about, you know, in light of what we've done to people. So hopefully I honored the group, and I'll stop there.
Yeah, listen, that's great, Michael. These are now. Did you actually go through some of these items right here? Did you?
Yes, we spoke more kind of like thematically,
Great.
right? I hopefully, if anyone in my group wants to step in, I think that's what.
I got one more, and Michael, you can just use a thumbs up or a thumbs down. In your discussion, did you feel that psychological safety actually has an important role in the outcomes that the business is looking for?
100%.
All right, beautiful. Thanks very much. All right, who else wants to volunteer? Now I can see less of you now because I'm sharing my screen. Anyone else want to talk about any of these topics?
I'll step up.
All right, there's Lou. Hey, Lou. What do you
Yeah,
got?
if anybody wants to interrupt me, please feel free. We had a really quick, due to my own technical issues, which I apologize for, we had a very brief discussion, and we spoke about question 6, managers don't know how to fix toxic team culture. And I think that we came to a general consensus that, especially section R, so find fresh approaches that encourage every team member to contribute, learn how to show appreciation, and schedule regular times to chat and listen. I think we all kind of agreed that those are vitally important to improving a team's culture if we've identified that it's toxic. And any of my group members, if you have anything to add to that, please feel free. And if I don't want to speak for you if I'm saying, putting words in your mouth, but yeah, I mean,
Great. That's so. And our so someone just asked in the chat. Nick said, wondering what the CARES acronym is. And Nick, we've got an article for you that explains it. But the C is R is relatedness, and so that's what we're talking about here. Is we have a toxic team culture. Team is fighting amongst each other. There's something going on there. So how do we resolve it? It all goes to relatedness. And so as a manager, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to find fresh approaches that encourage people to contribute to discussions. You can be in a meeting, one or two people always talking, other people not talking. Our role as the team leader, the supervisor, whoever's leading the meeting, is just to make sure that, hey, Pat and Sal, we haven't heard from you. Can we talk? Learn how to appreciate, to show appreciation for a person in new ways. You want to constantly look for things that are good, constantly, and hold them up. Forget about the bad things. Constantly hold up the good things and celebrate them. Say, hey, good job, way to go. Love that. Wow, look at everyone. Take a look at what Pat just did. That's awesome. These types of things help to reset this. And listen, it takes time. None of these things are magic wand, magic bullets. They are, but they're slow moving magic wands and magic bullets. All right, there's other comments going by. Anyone else want to step in with something that they found? And then I'm keeping an eye on the clock, so we got only one.
Yeah. If I can, Alex, I just wanted to share one thing based on two things that were highlighted by yourself and Lewis.
You got 90 seconds, Paul. You have the floor.
Okay, you talked about celebrating.
Yeah.
Lewis talked about fresh approaches.
Yeah.
Here's what I would suggest that everybody consider. I was part of a presentation with the Catholic University here in Columbia today on innovation and sustainability. And the consideration is this. Ties into number one, workers on the shop floor don't trust management. Well, that is a consistent problem in almost most businesses. Employees think managers are the problem, managers think employees are the problem. We must find an approach where we actually celebrate leadership and celebrate human talent, while at the same time making these changes. That's what I would suggest in any approach. How do you celebrate leadership? Because leadership really isn't the problem. They're just not using the right techniques. Most leaders don't want to cause problems, and most employees don't want to cause problems. So my suggestion, go from a standpoint of celebrating both leadership and human talent, and just find a way for them to get together.
That's great. Thanks, Paul. It's all about people. So there's our, yeah, thanks, Paul. That's great. In the absence of in the issue of time, I am going to start to bring this to a close. One more, I think I have one more slide, two more slides to show you very quickly. Here's our big bold tagline: make the invisible actionable. Blind spots, the things, the invisible stuff is bad for business, bad for organizations. They lower productivity, they increase turnover, and they make transformation projects more difficult. And this is what Conductor does: is we show you where the blind spots are, and then we help you to resolve it. These are the types of things that you're going to see in your organization. These are the challenges that every organization deals with. This is one tool that we use. Here is the invisible made visible. This is a psychological safety profile of a US nuclear power plant. There's 500 people in a variety of functional areas. And you can see that we've got all the 25 questions of the survey are across the top. You can see that there's some couple of questions that are uniformly not good across the organization. There's a couple of teams that are struggling with psychological safety. And then there are pockets of lower, and there are also pockets of high psychological safety. It's not that it's all bad. There's good stuff as well that we can learn from. This is the work that we do. We'd be happy to discuss it with you more at any time. Here's the email address and the website address. Just want to thank every one of you for showing up and participating. I hope you met one or two friends out there. When you're in the breakout rooms, we will go through the questions and make sure that the chat, make sure any questions are answered. I'll stick around after this if anyone wants to stick around and chat, or if I think Nick wanted to get a document, and we'll send out the recording. I know people have already asked for that. We'll send out the recording in a few days, and then we'll do one more of these before Christmas. Thank you so much.